along with the thing. Fucks up by like even not tying it. Otherwise, I've got my wrench. Another metal joint, not bad. There, or let's go down. Something like this. Wait, no, like this. There. So it's. Is 59. Get it up. You see anything else coming? Quite a bit of stress on the pulley.
I don't think we even need to trim off the edges if there's like an inch.
I can't. Rope's too short. Can you untie? Hello everyone, thanks for joining me on this wonderful episode. Today we'll be working on part 3 of the tree tower build. This is pretty much the final episode in this series. If you guys want to see more sort of builds like this, let me know in the comments, and I've got a couple like the hall house, the pit house, that I might upload. If you haven't yet watched the previous episodes, part 1 and 2, feel free to do that as well. I'll put the links in the description so you can catch up on how we made this project. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So our main focus for today was the cover, the top plywood piece, and the braces holding up the platform. So we started off the day by taking a couple of 4x8 plywood sheets from an abandoned house and bringing them over here. So with the plywood in stock, we decided to start sketching out the layout for the cover. So from a bird's eye view, it's essentially a rectangle with 2 circles, which represent the tree trunks. Now the goal of this platform was to have it all around the tree, so you could walk around, sit on different angles, and overall it would just be a bit more space than having it condensed in the middle, which was our initial plan. So using a ruler, we pretty much just went on to measure the dimensions, breaking it up into pretty much different quadrants, squares. Now the main thing to keep in mind is you want the plywood resting on the cross pieces, because that's what's going to give it support. Now the main reason we used plywood is because we had it in stock. A lot of people use planks, which is also okay. Another benefit though, and the main reason we did choose plywood, is because once you put it on the platform, it covers a wide surface area and it goes over all the cross pieces. So whenever you step on the plywood piece, it distributes your weight across all the cross pieces as opposed to condensing it just underneath one, which really helps to spread the weight and makes the platform a lot more stable by putting less strain on the cross pieces. So with everything measured out, then began the laborious process of actually cutting it. Now we use my Silky Big Boy saw, although this probably wasn't the best saw for plywood, and it actually dulled the saw quite a bit. So instead, if you're ever cutting plywood, I suggest to use a all-purpose saw or a re-sharpenable saw, something that isn't really that precious. So we pretty much cut the pieces up, brought them up, and then laid them out. From there, with all the plywood pieces laid out, we decided to screw it in. So we pretty much used regular 2.5-inch deck screws, and one thing to keep in mind when doing this, you want the deck screws to actually go through the plywood and into the cross piece, because if they just go through the plywood into nothing, they're not going to hold. So make sure you mark out where the cross pieces are underneath before screwing them in. So with the main cover complete, we decided to start the braces. We thought about making 2 at first, but then opted for 4, just to keep things symmetrical. The way we designed it is pretty much wherever the edge piece and the cross piece intersect to make the sort of T, we were to cut 6x6-inch plywood squares and put them right on the bottom, and then attaching screws. So if this would be the platform up here, the squares would go flat on the bottom like this. From there, we cut 2x4s and positioned it pretty much on the bottom of the platform, going sideways to the tree. We put 4 of these on each edge of both of our edge, I guess, supports, which added up to 4. So with the main bulk of our treehouse complete, all that was left to do is just the minor touches. We were thinking about replacing the 2 steps, of maybe making something a bit more sturdy, but we're still thinking on that, and also having a trapdoor where there's a gap. If you haven't seen previously, we essentially cut a cross piece to make this rectangular gap where we could actually fit through. If we attach hinges on the side and put a plywood piece, it would actually be able to open and close, which would make it safer when you're up there because there's not a huge gap that you might accidentally go through. Overall, it was a really fun build. Lots of experience gained from actually building this, and lots of fun as well. This was probably our most complex, but also most resource-intensive project. So overall, I think it was a great project. If you guys have a tree on a property, even if it's a couple of acres build, I highly suggest building this if you're interested in it. If you have any questions or suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments. Again, thank you for watching, everyone, and have an amazing day. Take care.